Welcome back to the Roundtable. I am Nemo, and guys, I think it's safe to say that Infinity Train Season 3 did not disappoint. Not only did it answer some of the biggest questions we had, like what happened to Amelia, but it also showed us a side of the train that we'd never seen before. Mainly just how absurdly dangerous this train can be. And as we get more answers on how the Infinity Train works, the more what exactly is the Infinity Train becomes a much bigger question. Like, who built it? Where is it? How old is it? And especially after Book 3, the existence and nature of the train, while not drawn to the forefront, really deserves a closer examination. New information and fates of certain characters makes you wonder who had the capability to create this bizarre locomotive, especially in a time where human technology would have prevented such a thing from happening. When Infinity Train first started up, it was reasonable to assume the train had magic properties, but 3 books in, everything that's been explained about the Infinity Train has been extremely sci-fi. Almost every major question you have about the train has a canonical sci-fi technology explanation. For a bunch of reasons I'm going to get into, this got me thinking. For a show that's such a fantastic homage to the genre of sci-fi horror, what's one of the oldest sci-fi tropes in the book that this show would totally do that surprisingly hasn't actually shown up yet? Alien abduction. Guys, keep an open mind, because I truly think the Infinity Train wasn't made by a human, even with the concept of time travel. I think the Infinity Train was made by aliens, or at least made with alien technology. And before you think I'm crazy, let me explain. As always, spoilers ahead. So let's start with the first question. Why can't the train be the product of a human? Well, as we alluded to in the intro, a bulk of what makes up the Infinity Train is highly advanced technology. Every aspect of the train car, from the sky to the ground, to pretty much any building or object, is all powered, or essentially is all orbs. Blue giant spheres within the walls and ground of every train car. Remove the orbs, the objects and surroundings in question completely disappear. This is heavily explored in Book 1's The Unfinished Car. It doesn't even stop at inanimate objects. Denizens like Atticus, Samantha the cat, Tuba, they're all implied to be powered by orbs as well. As Amelia shot Atticus with a cannon powered by an orb that transformed Atticus into a Gome, prompting Tulip to find specifically a Corgi orb in an attempt to transform him back, which, for the record, worked. Keep in mind though, these aren't illusions or holograms, and all of these examples can be destroyed even if their orb assumably remains intact. Denizens can leave their respective train cars with no direct consequences. All the food on the train, actual food that sustains and nourishes you. All of the water can keep you hydrated. The food can be eaten and likely not be instantly replaced, but produced by any means we'd resort to in our own environment. Basically, if you want fruit or veggies, you gotta grow more. Need more spaghetti for the Italian restaurant car? It needs to be prepared, cooked, and served like any real restaurant we've been in. Broken trees don't just repair themselves like a video game. All damage done to objects on the train sticks. Hell, back to the Unfinished Car, the inhabitants literally had to develop their society and daily routines around how screwed up the car's design was. These are real permanent changes. That's not to say the contents of the train can't be repaired by one, they absolutely can be, though that's besides the point. When it comes down to actual living beings within the cars, they're not immortal. Depending on what they are, they may be a bit more durable in survival, like the origami birds crushed by Simon, but later smoothed and refolded by Grace, returning to a healthy state. They're also surprisingly strong. Still, if they were actually torn into pieces or cut up with scissors, I doubt Grace could do anything to save them. Denizens can die without return, like Mace or Tuba. The Apex actually has a lot of denizen blood on their hands. Creating these orbs that can straight up produce actual sentient life, actual matter, and actual atmosphere, as long as it's properly plugged into the car, is not an easy thing to pull off. With all that said, obviously even in fiction, you would imagine a human would need quite a bit of resources to invent something like the train. That's a pill I can admittedly swallow, even if the train was invented in the 80s, 70s, 60s, really any time in the 1900s. But when you really begin to do the math, even in fiction, some big questions are raised. Infinity Train's timeline begins in 2019. Tulip runs away from home and boards the train on November 22nd, 2019. The show is more or less concurrent with modern times. So what was this high-level train doing existing for centuries? In Book 3's Le Chat Chalet Car, the cat gives some shocking offhanded information about the train. Grace, Simon, Hazel, and Tuba encounter her while she's on vacation, one that she remarks is her first in 150 years. Not only that, but when the group realizes that all the water and snow in the car is actually Randall, the cat remarks that despite having a great view, the spot has been bone dry for centuries. Centuries. And I don't think she was talking cat ears, because that would have been clarified as a joke. Like, let's play the actual clip for emphasis.
Is all the water here Randall?
While the view here is magnificent,
It's been bone dry for centuries.
Now, 150 years would already imply that the train has existed since 1869, which technically adds up since the first steam-powered railway journey occurred in February 1804. But when you toss the word centuries into the mix, even 200, 300 years would be alarming, as that implies the Infinity Train has been around since the 1700s. But God, imagine if it's even longer than that. We know it's less than 1,000 years since she didn't say millennium, but that still doesn't stop the idea of the train being older than most of our ancestors. That alone rules out the idea of humans assembling this train, not to mention its colossal scale, standing about 5 stories tall, or the fact that it's seemingly never ending, with trains still having the potential to be produced to this day. But just because humans didn't build it, doesn't mean an extraterrestrial race couldn't have. Then there's Amelia, whose entire history on the train strongly supports that the technology of the train is far beyond our own. Despite being insanely smart and on the train for decades, managing to overthrow 1-1 in that reign, Amelia was never able to get a good grip on the train's technology. In an attempt to recreate her dead lover Ulrich and their life together, Amelia initiated various experiments through the train's technology. Entire cars and even denizens were the byproduct of her grief and determination, often coming out less than ideal, and a distinct dose of turtle found somewhere in the mix.
A lot of turtles. Too many turtles. A number of turtles that makes you think, why? Why turtles again?
This includes the unfinished car, intended to be Amelia's college campus, but instead serves as a dysfunctional town for talking turtles and Hazel. Intended to be a clone of Ulrich, but instead is a young half-human, half-turtle girl with an inactive number on her right palm. Again, Amelia had plenty of time at her disposal and the resources necessary to do exactly what 1-1 does. So why does her attempts have so many noticeable flaws? Well, whereas 1-1 could have been programmed by his alien creators with the skills necessary and dedicated to running the train, Amelia is just a human that could be trying to grasp the technology and science far beyond our understanding. Even if she had some sort of guide or instructions on how to create orbs, she could have easily failed, leaving entire train cars that she had to quarantine and eject as they were created by her. But hopefully all of this will be expanded in the possibly upcoming book 4. Also, the equipment she has when she works for 1-1 in the train, tell me that couldn't be alien technology. I mean, maybe it's a really sick iPad, but I doubt it. Then there's the question of numbers and general train technology. Like, what? We know how numbers work, or at least their intended purpose. The train number on a passenger's hand is representative of the issue they need to work through, ideally working it down to 0 as they progress, but increasing with misdeeds and personal regression. That word is important, personal. Every number seems personalized to their passenger. While doing generally reckless things like destroying cars and denizens is a surefire way to get your number up, specific actions of the passenger can raise the number up or down. Jesse is a great example. In the map car, Empty tries to force what she assumes is the proper way to get Jesse's number down onto him, making him partake in forced moments of self-reflection and exposition. However, because Jesse's problem that landed him on the train dealt with him being a people pleaser, giving into the whims of others, even if it did himself or those around him a disservice, caused his number to increase. And even using other passengers, for example, Tulip's number decreased when reminiscing about her childhood or recognizing her struggle in others. Grace's number decreased the more she stayed away from the ways of the apex, playing by the rules and admitting her faults to herself once trapped in her tape. Hell, Simon's number covered his entire body once he thought he murdered his best friend. The big mystery here isn't how the numbers are determined. We see that when the passengers arrive on the train. Their unconscious bodies have their memories extracted into tapes, and the robots serving the train process the tape and use a machine to imprint the numbers onto them. Simple stuff. It's more so about the algorithm behind the number. Whoever programmed these robots and the machines, how do they decide the morality of a human being? What's considered a good deed and a bad deed? Especially for the numbers to react to their actions in an instant. Now bear with us, because this is where we're going to get a bit crazy, but serves as a bulk of the theory. The human race has been able to study animals, their behavioral patterns, what makes them tick, why they have reactions to certain things, etc. Obviously, we've achieved that with humans as well, but not to the same degree. However, let's say in the world of Infinity Train, there's a species much more advanced and evolved than us, who are able to study humans to a T, a species that understands us more than we understand ourselves. Then maybe, just maybe, that species would feel capable and confident in weighing in on our own morality. The programmers of the train must have a higher understanding of human beings, as when it abducts its passengers, the train appears in a different form each time, tailored to that person's particular interests and aesthetics as a mean to lure them in. Also, side note really quick, 1-1, those mini 1-1s that extract memories, the larger dinosaur-esque robots that create the actual VHS tapes of a passenger but still look kind of 1-1-esque, the passenger pods, I'd argue they all look innately alien. Then there's the location of the train, a weird barren wasteland with purple lightning, and after a certain point, you're physically unable to move any further from the train, at least if you're a denizen. It kind of looks like Mars more than anything else, and while I'm not saying it's Mars, it could very much be intentional. It's definitely not anywhere on Earth with how incognito this train is, unless it was in like Utah or something. No one lives there. Now, with all this being said, that leads us to the next question. Why would aliens even build the Infinity Train? Well, let's put all this together, as we understand it now. Centuries ago, a mysterious alien race was probably abducting humans left and right, as aliens do, and notice something right off the bat. Human beings kind of suck, and kind of constantly repeat history, something that bodes well to say the least. This happens because humanity is stubborn, especially when it comes to confronting their own flaws. And if something isn't done, humanity would end up destroying themselves. Because this alien race doesn't want to see humanity implode on itself, they got to work and came up with a way to fully monitor humans, saving those who suffer emotional distress they refuse to deal with, endangering themselves and others around them. Their solution? The Infinity Train. Led by 1-1 and his robot brethren, the Infinity Train is able to scout out potential passengers. How this is done, I would love for the show to reveal, and then abduct passengers with advanced transportation technology, taking them to the Infinity Train, which in itself is located on a closed-off section of another planet. The barrier that prevents denizens from traveling beyond that point may not just be for the denizens, but an actual barrier that distributes oxygen to the passengers, and for sound to travel through while keeping them safe from the rest of the planet. Likewise, I imagine the barrier, if not another one, keeps anything else on the planet from getting in. It's entirely possible that some of the train cars get overhauled and updated every few generations. None of the train cars feel modern, but they don't feel outdated either. Yet places like the color clock car and the ball pit car would have stuck out like a sore thumb back in the 1800s, or even the early 1900s when those concepts practically did not exist on Earth. I bring this up because I believe denizens and cars are made to appeal to humans and what the hypothetical alien race observed about us. What we like, what we hate. Chances are, no matter if you're 15 or 50 on the train, you're gonna find the corgi car absolutely adorable because humans tend to love dogs. If you don't, you are a sociopath. You're going to be enticed to kick it in the campfire car because humans tend to love camping. The train cars are designed for humans to enjoy and participate in so they can advance and eventually get off the train. Some cars may be alien technology that opens up bridges to other worlds, like the chrome car, although the mirror world is technically real and passengers do interact with their actual reflections. Owen and Maddie proposed a question on the most recent Infinity Train Reddit AMA. Does the mirror world exist because of the train, or did it exist before the train? I only wish they gave us an answer, but here we are. Personally, I think it did exist before the train, but the materials of the chrome car serve to directly connect a passenger to this otherwise impossible to access world. If they have transportation technology to and from Earth with the train doors, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Meanwhile, Gomes exist as a means for the train to motivate passengers to get off, and they seemingly feed off numbers in addition to just general soul sucking, as Simon's number was so overwhelmingly high that when the Gome killed him, it blew up too shortly after, though they may just blow up anyways. We don't know a lot about them. It may seem counterproductive when it comes to helping passengers, but that could just be a cruel design on the alien's end. Simon's death may have been by design. You can shake off Gomes, but if you're unwilling to cooperate and change, the train would rather deal you a swift death. It legitimately scares me. It's a very sick and tragic process of elimination, but it's not like the train is perfect anyways, as I would assume nearly any passenger who makes it off to tell the story would develop intense trauma. Hell, Simon was traumatized just by being chased by a Gome. So someone like Tulip, who survived the soul-sucking twice, is probably pretty messed up from the experience. On top of that, just about everything else. And I think that in itself also supports the train being created by aliens. That oversight which breeds a lack of empathy by mentally scarring all the people who are on the train for varying reasons. I think any human being who made it that far in designing the train would immediately get that. But an alien who just observed from higher beyond, not so much. They're just looking to correct one's behavior, focusing on everything that leads them to the train, but not really considering what happens after. That begs the question, is the train helping humans, or do they themselves get something out of these weird moral journeys? But that's a theory for another day. Will we ever learn more about the train, who created it, how it decides a passenger to join? I would hope so. Every book seems to feed us at least one big detail about the train, so it feels like by the end we could work our way up to the origin. Is this theory crazy? Of course. But is this show just as crazy, somewhat nonsensical, and absolutely mind-blowing? Of course. So, this is the hill we're willing to die on until proven wrong. But that being said, I'd love to hear your guys' theory on the train. Do you think it's alien? Do you think there's another explanation? Let us know in those comments down below, or tweet to us at Roundtable Vids or me at @ADressyourNemo. As always, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the Roundtable for more incredible cartoon content. Guys, I'm Nemo, this is a crazy Infinity Train theory, and I will see you next time. Peace.